cake, homes. I bet my life I'm a dice shaker. Electric lights on a skyscraper. What's up and down?
Diceshaker Podcast. My name is Jordan Brown. I am the host of the Diceshaker Podcast, joined as always by my man Tyler Hartley, running everything behind the scenes. Thank you, sir. You are welcome, Jordan. Welcome. Good to have you guys again. Welcome back. All right, so week 0 in the books. Solid week 0. I would give it. I would give it a 7.6 out of 10 in terms of week 0. Normally you get a bunch of bullshit. In week 0, we actually got some decent games. Not a lot to take away. There is one thing we are going to talk about. I've got a teachable moment for everybody out there about some things that you may have saw a little wrong. You may have reacted a little wrong when the bullets were flying on Saturday. I'm going to let you know where you went wrong there and what you should have done, how we survived these wars. We're going to get into week 1. We're going to talk about what I like there. And then we're going to get to it. This is one of the best weeks. One of the best weeks of college football. Week 1, they do a really good job on this one of spreading the games out. We got games Thursday night. We got games Friday night. We got games all day Saturday. We got games Sunday night. And we got games Monday night. So this is the first real chance to really get into the shit and start to feel what it's going to feel like in the regular season. Big weekend coming next weekend. Big weekend. Could describe 2 of the best words in gambling. We're not going to say them yet. It's a tease. 2 of the best words in gambling coming next weekend. We'll talk about it. All right. Let's get into week 0. So week 0, the big one obviously is Georgia Tech 24, Florida State 21. As you know, listeners of the Diceshaker know, I had under 55.5 in that game. And now here's where the teachable moment comes in. First of all, let me say this. Florida State, we got problems with Florida State. All right, I was told that we're returning 70-plus starts on the offensive line. We're going to run the ball. We're going to be dominant up front. That was not the case. They got bitched by Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech, a team that traditionally is terrible on the trenches. They're a good school. It's hard to get fat kids into good schools. They don't like to work hard. It's just kind of part of their nature. So they end up not being great on the lines. So that's number 1, Florida State. Now, for those of you who didn't watch the game, Tyler, I assume you did not watch the Florida State-Georgia Tech game? Okay, so all right. So I'm just going to explain the scenario to you, and you just let me know how you would react in this situation. So remember, I've got under 55.5, right? So here's how the game goes. Florida State receives the opening kickoff. They go down the field in about 7 plays, take about 4 minutes off the clock. They do not throw the ball more than 3 yards downfield at any point in the drive. They score, touchdown. They then go for 2 on a play, very interesting play called the swinging gate. Don't know if you've ever seen what a swinging gate is. You can go ahead and look it up if you want. But it's essentially they line up 2 players, like the long snapper and the holder and the kicker line up to kick the field goal like they normally would. And then the rest of the team is like 10 yards to the left of them. And then basically the idea is that you're going to confuse the defense. They're going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? And you're going to be able to throw the ball over to where all the 10 guys are, run for a touchdown. Cool. Florida State pulls that off. 8-0 Florida State about 4 minutes into the game. Remember, I have under 55.5. Georgia Tech gets the ball. Georgia Tech goes down the field about 4 plays, 75 yards. They score. Again, don't really throw the ball more than 4 or 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. So, scenario now. We're about halfway through the first quarter. It is 8-7. I have under 55.5. Nobody's had a third down yet. It's time to panic as an underbetter, right? Wrong. You panic in that situation, you die. That is what happened to a lot of people. I know what happened. That live total went to 63.5. People say, oh my God, there's been a third down. They panic. They get off the under. They live bet the over trying to hedge. They die. They die a slow death the rest of the game. Here's what you need to be paying attention to in that situation. And this is why you can't just be a box score watch. You can't just look at the score and be like, well, 15's a lot of points. We're only 6 minutes into the game. You got to look at how it happened. Let me explain a couple things how this all works. First of all, it was the first game of the year. These teams have been prepping this game for months. Since the spring, they've been prepping this game. Now, for every game, but especially this game, coaches script their first drive, maybe the first 2 drives, usually the first 10 plays or so. They're going to run this, and then we're going to run this, and then we're going to run this. And they rep that out in practice. So their team gets very good at running it. We saw that. Florida State had a script early. This run, that run, this run, that run, touchdown. Georgia Tech gets the ball. Same thing. This run, that run, this one, that run, touchdown. Right. Okay. They didn't throw the ball more than 3 yards down the line of scrimmage. They scored off script, off knowing exactly where the defense was going to be and what they were going to do and game playing for that because they've been watching film for fucking 6 months. As soon as the defenses on either side adjusted, Georgia Tech started bringing their safeties down to fuck with the run game, and Florida State started getting a lot more physical on the edges as well. It stopped. The scoring stopped. The total ended at 45. We cashed under 55.5 easy, but there was a lot of dead people, a lot of good men were lost out there because they panicked and they live bet the 63.5. I live bet the under 63.5. We're going to start giving out live bets on the socials so that you guys can all win along too, but just let it be known I did also live bet under 63.5 because if you've been through the wars, if you've been through the fires, you know when to panic, when not to panic. It was not time to panic at 63.5. A lot of people out there too, I will say this. A lot of people messaged me before the game saying they were laying it with Florida State. They were laying 10.5. Somebody messaged me, you know who you are. You said you bet it down. You thought you were smart. I'm going to bet it down through 9.5. I'm going to buy the extra point. I'm a smart man. I try to talk these guys out of it. I tried to warn them that you don't want to. Listen, here's the thing. You can't say it's the realities of war. Not everybody's going to make it. All right. You can't save them all. All right, you can just do your best and you live with what happens. I tried to tell them that you don't want to lay 2 scores with DJ Uiagalelei as your quarterback in week 1. We haven't seen it yet. They did. They didn't make it home. It is what it is. Again, you gotta be smart when you're doing this shit. This is how people get hurt. All right, we need to be safer with our bets. So that was the big takeaway from week 0 was, again, just no panic. Understand what you're watching. Understand game script. Understand game flow. Understand what's likely to happen moving forward. Is it likely that Florida State is going to continue to average 6 yards a carry the rest of the game? Probably not. Didn't work out that way. We cashed that bet. Cashed the over in Montana State and whoever the hell they played. Can't even remember now. SMU did not show up at all. That we're writing SMU off. It's a week 0 write-off. Not common to have write a whole program off in week 0, but they got no quarterback, got no offensive line. Life comes at you fast when you got no quarterback, no offensive line. I think they might have the worst offensive line in the ACC. So we're gonna table that. They're done. We're gonna make some money betting against SMU later this year. Don't worry about that. So that's it. So that's week 0. 2-2 on the week, 50%. Again, do we want 50% weeks? No, we don't. We want to win, but keep our head above water. We got a good taste of the action there. Really started to feel alive in that Florida, especially when that I saw that live total hit 63.5. I was like, oh, we're so back right now. I'm seeing the board so clear. It was really, really fun day. So that's it. So that's week 0. But we got a full week 1 to talk about here. So here's how we're gonna do this. I want to say this about week 1 before we get into it. I'm a man who's known, you ask about me, they'll tell you this. I'm known to fall in love with a board. All right? It's happened to me before. It'll happen to me again. I want to get out here front and say this right now. I love the week 1 board. All right? I love the week 1 board. It's week 1. It's hard. It's like, I imagine, I've never been to prison, but I imagine a week 1 board is kind of like a good dude who like gets out of prison, you know, where it's like he hasn't seen a chick in a long time. And he's like, oh, this 6 is incredible. That's kind of how I feel looking at the board this week, where it's like there's things where it's like I don't really know what's going on in this game, but goddamn do I have a gut feeling. You know, it's one of those things where it's like I just haven't bet a lot for a little while, and we're really excited. We want to go. Now, that being said, I love the board. Fair call. I love the board. Realistically, if I had to put a number on it right now, I'd say this is going to be a 12 to 15 play week for me, week 1. That's probably what we're going to go. Now, on the Diceshaker Podcast, are we going to talk about all the plays? We're not going to talk about all the plays. One, it's only Tuesday night right now, so we still got a lot of time to figure some stuff out before the weekend, so I don't have all my plays locked in. I do have some plays locked in. We will talk about those. We're going to touch on kind of the big games of the week, and I am going to give out my lock of the week. We are going to keep a record of locks. These are not, let me clarify here, these are not Game of the Year plays. Those are a different thing, okay? Game of the Years, I don't know when they're going to happen. There's a whole committee. We got to discuss. We need weeks of preparation before we go into a Game of the Year. But we are going to have a lock every week. It's the bet I feel best about every single week. We're going to keep that record. I would recommend these as hammer plays. What's a hammer play? Multiple units. Multiple units on the hammer play. You decide what that is. Again, number one, big testament of the Diceshaker Podcast. We do not unit shame. We are an anti-unit shaming podcast. We don't do that bullshit. We're not unit shaming out here. So whatever it is that you're betting is what you're betting. That's fine. Anybody who's got skin in the game is fighting the war, and you get respect for that. But I would recommend whatever you normally bet on the lock of the week, you're going to want to at least double that, maybe triple it, maybe 5x. So here's how we're going to break down week 1. We're going to go through each window of the week. Again, we got games Thursday through Monday. We're going to go through each window of the week. I'm going to kind of pick out the biggest game, give you kind of my opinion on the game, what I'm betting, and then we're going to finish with the lock, and that should bring us home for this week. Again, if you want the full card will be released on socials. We got TikTok, we got Instagram, we got Twitter, at the Diceshaker on all social accounts. You follow it, you want the bets, you want to win money, you want to go to your friends, you want to look smart in the bar, you follow the social accounts. That's where you get the full card. We're not doing full cards on the podcast. It's too much. I'd like to sit here and say that I could be restrained and I could bet 5 or 6 games a week. We all know that's not going to happen. I fall in love with boards. I like to spray the board. There's going to be a lot of bets. So that's what we're going to do. That's how we're going to handle it. So right into it. Sorry, hold on one sec. I got to pull up my odds board here. Starting with maybe the biggest game of the day on Saturday. They started out in the noon window. We got Clemson at Georgia. Technically at Georgia. It is a neutral site game. They're playing it in Atlanta. Line right now, most places, 13 and a half. You even see a 14 out there. Total is at 48 and a half, 49 and a half, depending where you're looking. Tough game to call. Big spread, obviously, makes a little bit of sense. Georgia, obviously, being a dominant program last few years, returning a lot of guys off last year's team. Clemson, been disappointing. Really haven't played well in a big game since like 2020 when Trevor Lawrence was the quarterback. So that's been a little while there. We'll take this from the Clemson side first of all. Big make or break here for Clemson. So Tyler, I don't know if you know this. People there might not know this. Clemson is one of 4 programs in college football who does not take transfers. So everybody knows the transfer portal. It's a big thing in college football. You take in all these, you can transfer freely. So it's basically like free agency in college football. Essentially, basically be the equivalent of an NFL team never signing a free agent and only drafting players. Essentially how they do it. It's them and the service academy. So like Army, Navy, Air Force. Because they literally can't take transfers because if you transfer, you're now in the military, that sort of thing, right? So Clemson, they do not take transfers. They took 0 transfers last year in the transfer portal. For comparison, a team like Colorado, who we'll talk about later, Deion Sanders' team, they took about 45 transfers in the portal. So they do not use the portal. They only recruit through high school. So what does that mean? That means that when they have a problem on their roster, so if they have a deficiency somewhere for them, it could be receiver, it might be quarterback. We'll talk about that. They can't fix it very quickly, right? Because they're basically waiting for a guy to develop into the spot, into the level to take that spot. Whereas everybody else can just go, oh, fuck, we need a right tackle. All right, who's the best right tackle in the portal? Sick, you come here now. They can do that. Clemson doesn't do that. And by the way, nobody's stopping Clemson from doing this. It's like a philosophical approach their coach has where he like doesn't believe in it. It's fucking crazy. And you can see, yeah, it's insane. And you can track it. Like, so Clemson was dominant from like 2015 really, through maybe even 2014, through like 2020. They had Deshaun Watson as their quarterback. We know who he is, rapey guy, NFL. And then right into Trevor Lawrence. And they won national championships. They were up there with the Ohio States and the Alabamas and the Jordans as one of the big dogs in the country. Since then, since 2020, they have regressed. Now you could say that that's because they don't have the same level of quarterback play anymore. And you would be correct about that. They originally had the guy who I told you, the Florida State quarterback, who I just told everybody you're a moron if you lay 2 points with he's your quarterback. He was their quarterback for a little while. 5-star kid, didn't work out. They're on to a new quarterback now named Cade Klubnik, another 5-star recruit who I would refer to. So there's a saying in football called JAG, which stands for just a guy. And so I like to think about guys as there's kind of like 3 tiers of quarterbacks in college football. There's like bad quarterbacks, like truly bad ones, right? And those are we'll point those out as the season goes. Nothing better than betting a bad college quarterback. Shout out Tommy DeVito. Then we've got Jags, so just a guy, kind of your replacement level quarterback, right? Then you've got Jag Plus. So that's like a guy, that's like a Bo Nix last year at Oregon, Dylan Gabriel this year at Oregon. Basically a guy who's like, he's not good, but he's not bad, and he's been around a long time. So he's like older than all the guys he's playing against. He's experienced. He's going to give you he's a little more than average, but he's not going to the NFL. Nobody's going to care about. He's going to go sell insurance when he's done playing football is basically the type of guy I'm talking about. And then we've got star quarterbacks, right? So Cade Klubnik, quarterback for Clemson, I think is Jag, maybe Jag Plus. Maybe on his best day he's Jag Plus. Probably Jag. So We got a Jag going up against Georgia's defense. You don't have to know shit about college football to know that Georgia's defense is going to be good. You know how I know they're going to be good? Because every other defensive player they've had the last 2 years plays in the NFL now. And they've just got more coming. Go look at the Eagles. The Eagles got like 7 starters on their defense from Georgia. Their defense is going to be good. Kirby Smart, one of the best defense coaches in the game. And listen, Georgia is probably the best team in the country. So them laying 13 and a half at a neutral site against the disappointing Clemson team. I see how people would talk themselves into laying the points there. I'm not going to do it. I may regret that. And listen, the card's not finalized until Saturday, but I may regret that. I just don't know if Georgia is going to put things on film, right? They're not going to bust out like kind of their best offensive plays because they don't want other people to kind of see it before the games start to really count. And 2, I just frankly don't think they're going to need to run the score up in this one. I think they're going to be able to control the Clemson offense. I don't like Clemson skill players very much. Running back good, receivers not very good. I don't like their quarterback. Their offensive line's supposed to be better. So I can't lay it with Georgia, and I'll be damned if because I've been gotten bit last couple of years if I'm gonna back Clemson Clemson is now in the I'm gonna need to see it category where they're gonna have to play well in a big game. They may have to play well in 2 big games before I'm willing to take them in any sort of way. So where does that leave us? That leaves us on the total. So total right now, 48.5 some places, 49.5 other places. And now people, a lot of times, if you don't know what you're doing out here, you'll think that's pretty much the same thing. That is not the same thing at all, okay? When we're betting football games, we have to be aware of things called key numbers. So there are certain numbers out there that matter because of how football scores work with 7s and 3s. So 49 is a key number because 49 is 7 touchdowns. So if you're betting under 48.5, that is much different than betting under 49.5, for example. If you're betting over 48.5, you'd much rather bet over 48.5 than over 49.5 because 7 touchdowns you win, 7 touchdowns you lose, that kind of thing. There are many key numbers out there. We'll talk about them throughout the year, but 49 definitely a key number. So the play in this game is under. We are going under. Early season game. Offenses are probably going to be a little bit behind the defenses. 2 defenses I do believe in. 2 offenses. 1 offense I don't believe in. Another offense I just don't think is going to care that much. So we're going under. However, you need to bet under 49.5. If you bet under 48.5, you are a sucker. We are an anti-sucker podcast. If you bet under 48.5, you can't listen to podcast anymore. You're banned. I'm putting that out there right now. No suckers. We don't allow the sucker-free zone. I might put a sign up that says that. We don't do suckers here. So if you bet 48.5, you send me your 48.5 ticket, you are banned from listening to the podcast. Do not do it. It is illegal. We're under 49.5 here on that one. If you have to buy the point, but honestly, just go. There's books out. Don't bet with one book all the time. No free shout-outs. We don't shout-out book. Don't bet with one book, the same book all the time, because then you're at their mercy. There's apps out there. Get no free shout-outs. I'm not going to tell you what they are. There's apps out there that'll show you all the lines at every book. You just pick which one is the best. Open an account at all of them. It takes 10 minutes. Bet which one is the best number. Stop making this harder than it has to be. It's already hard. So that's it. Georgia Clemson under 49.5. If you bet under 48.5, lifetime ban from listening to the podcast. Glad we got that clear. We're on to the 3:30 window. 3:30 window. First of all, shout out to the TV networks running. TV networks essentially so like Fox, CBS, NBC. They basically ESPN. They basically run college football. There's no like right. It's not the NFL where there's like, hey, like we have a commissioner who's running it. So it's basically the TV networks that make all the rules. And they did a good job this year of spreading out the games week 1. So we've got a good one in every window. 3:30, Miami at Florida. Line right now, most places, Miami -2.5. What the hell's the total? This is unprofessional of me. What the hell is the total? I think it's like 50-something, 51 maybe. 53.5. Okay, so a little bit on Miami, a little bit on Florida. Kind of 2 teams at opposite ends of the spectrum here in terms of expectations for this year. Miami has what is on paper their best team of the last at least 15 years, maybe more than that. They went into the transfer portal and they spent a fuck ton of money. They got Cam Ward from Washington State, who's the quarterback. Florida State wanted him. Florida probably wanted him. A lot of different teams wanted Cam Ward. Miami gets him. They brought in a bunch of other guys. They returned a bunch of guys. They've been killing it in the high school recruiting for a while now. Mario Cristobal, their coach, is a very, very good recruiter. This team has talent, no question about it. Florida. Opposite end of the spectrum. Florida's coach is Billy Napier. Not the best recruiter in the world. Decent recruiter, not the best. And they have what is probably the hardest schedule in college football this year. Billy Napier is for sure coaching for his job. If they don't win, I would say they would probably have to go at least 7-5 for him to have any chance of saving his job. That's probably still not going to get it done, especially if they lose to Miami, in-state rival. So, where does that leave us? That leaves us with Miami laying 2.5. Again, so when we talk about key numbers, there are 3s out there. Why don't lay 3 when you can lay 2.5? Don't take 2.5 when you can take 3. Be smart about this shit. A lot of 2.5s out there, a lot of 3s out there. The thing that gives me pause on because it seems like an easy lay at the 2.5. Thing that gives me pause is this game is going to be at Florida. So Florida's at home. One of the loudest, most raucous, craziest stadiums in college football. Mario Cristobal teams have been known to be mentally weak. There was, and himself mentally weak. There was a game last year. They played, I think, Georgia Tech, actually, where all they needed to do to ice the game was just knee the ball. Literally just sit on it, and you're going to win the game. They decided to run the ball, fumbled, touchdown the other way, onside kick, recovered, touchdown again, Miami loses. I swear to God that happened. Swear to God, Mario Cristobal has been known as one of the worst. So here's a good thing with Mario Cristobal. So Mario Cristobal was at Oregon before he was at.
What is the purpose of? In what world are you run the ball if you can just knee and win it?
I wish I had an answer for it.
There's no answers.
Well, here's the answer. Here's the answer. It's like I think what the answer is he didn't do the math right.
Oh, like he didn't count the clock.
I think it's like. So that's what I'm saying. So he's known for like bad game management decisions, like real dumb shit, like wasting timeouts. Like he'll all the time, like lots of times, like half will end, and his team will have the ball, and he just will wait, like he just won't call one of his timeouts, and the clock will just expire. And he'll just be like, what was that? Lots of shit like that. Elite recruiter. Gets a ton of great play. But like for example, so when he was at Oregon, his quarterback was Justin Herbert. You know who Justin Herbert is, quarterback for the Chargers, right? He's pretty good. He's pretty good, right? He's not bad, right? Didn't win dick with them. Justin Herbert the reason why Justin Herbert got drafted so late is because Mario Cristobal was just holding them back for 3 years. Just super conservative game plans, super conservative clock management decisions, never goes for it on fourth down, all that type of shit, right? So I'm a little concerned about Miami going into a hostile environment. Florida, like their season hasn't crumbled yet, you know? So like their fans are going to be like, they're going to really give a fuck in this one. It's going to be hot. It's going to be in Gainesville, Florida. Minus 2.5. On the other side, it's like, okay, so maybe you want to take Florida. They just don't have a lot of good players. Like, it's just very hard to look at this team. They have some good players. They have a 5-star quarterback freshman, DJ Lagway, who I think is going to be good. But, like, they're bringing Graham Mertz back at quarterback. He fucked me last year in week 1, Utah. Utah started their backup quarterback. Graham Mertz still lost the game. Very hard to do. The Utah's backup. So I'm not comfortable there either. But it's the big game in the window, and I got to have a pick. We do this for the people. Diceshakers for the people. I have to have a pick for the people. So what am I going to do? I'm going to lay the 2.5 with Miami. We're going to do it. We're going to do it, and we're immediately, we're putting Miami on fraud watch. The game hasn't started yet. Miami's on fraud watch. We're going to have a list. We're on fraud watch going throughout the year. Miami immediately fraud watch. I'm scared to death of this game. I'm scared Cam Ward's not going to play. Because Cam Ward, too. So Cam Ward's their quarterback, and he's every single play could be a touchdown. We just don't know for what team. You understand what I'm saying? Like, he might throw the pick. He might fumble it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like it's
Favre, one of my favorite
Brett Favre, but like if he was like fast, but also had like little hands. Like, he fumbles a lot, you know. So like the Cam Ward experience could be up and down. We haven't seen him in this type of environment before. I don't know what Mario Cristobal might come out here and do some wild shit this week. So it's 2.5. I'm laying 2.5 points, and I believe I have the much more talented team. That's basically where we sum out at. I may hate this bet 2 seconds into the game. I will probably know by the first drive if this bet's a winner or a loser, but that's what we're doing with. Would I normally pick this? I would normally pick this game, but don't forget, I gave it to you because Diceshakers for the people. We pick the big games here. So I hate when shows don't pick the big games. So that's what everybody's watching. You have to pick the big games. Miami minus 2.5. 7:30 window. Night slate. Biggest game. Texas A&M hosting Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Right now, A&M 2.5, 3, similar situation in the last game. So A&M's the home team now. So for those who don't know how this breaks down, is usually in most situations, the home team is going to get an automatic 3 points. So if you see a line where the home team is favored by 3, that basically means the book thinks these teams are even. They're giving the home team the 3 points. That's kind of how that works. So if we got A&M at 2.5, A&M at 3, they think this is basically an even game. They actually think, even-ish game, but A&M is at home. A&M, another very good home environment. One of the biggest stadiums in college football, 110,000 people. And Texas A&M is one of those places, it's in College Station, Texas, where these people do not have shit going on outside of this team. This is it. That's all going on. If you're a Texas A&M fan, you're weird, first of all. They're like kind of a cult. They only have male cheerleaders, and they wear like these like milkman costumes the whole time. They're a weird fucking program. They got military people. They're not in the military, by the way. They have no affiliation with the military, but they got like soldiers on the field for some reason. It's super weird out there. Fake soldiers. It's very weird. It's a very weird place. A lot of people have compared them to a cult. It's like Christian fundamentalists out there. You know what I'm saying? Like it's kind of the sticks out in Texas. But one thing they love in Texas is that they love Jesus. They love football. That's the two things they got going on over there. So it's going to be a big time crowd. Notre Dame. Where are they at? Notre Dame, Marcus Freeman, good head coach. I like him a lot. Good recruiter. Guys do play hard for them. They've been killing it in the high school recruiting as well. Not so much in the transfer portal, but a good team. A good team overall. They got a transfer quarterback named Riley Leonard. He was at Duke last year. Had a good career in the ACC. It's going to be a different thing at Notre Dame, obviously. A&M is I wouldn't say for this game, the much more talented team. So A&M has a new coach this year, Mike Elko, actually. So the coach of Texas A&M last year coached the quarterback for Notre Dame. A&M has a bunch of leftover players from the old regime where they were recruiting at a very high level, so they do have a ton of like NFL talent, especially on the defensive line. Notre Dame has had multiple big-time injuries in training camp on their offensive line. Their tackles are both hurt. They've had some issues on the interior as well, I believe. It's hard with college injury reports, but some pretty solid information out there. Definitely the tackles are out. No question about that. And this is going to be easily the most hostile, hardest environment Riley Leonard has ever played in. I don't necessarily believe in Texas A&M in the long term, but I do believe in them in this game. We are going to lay A&M -2.5 at home. I think they have the better quarterback. I like Connor Wegman more than I like Riley Leonard. I don't think that's a popular opinion out there. And I think their defensive line is going to be able to win at the point of attack against Notre Dame's backups, essentially. If Notre Dame had their full offensive line playing in this game, I'd probably feel a little differently. But I think just the environment, coach's first game for A&M, it's going to be hostile. Night game, everybody's going to be fucked up. That matters a lot, too. That crowd's going to be raucous. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's been drinking all day long. Notre Dame's probably not traveling super great all the way down to Texas, I would imagine. Like, they're not going to have a lot of their fans. And Notre Dame are, like, they're pretty, like, their fans are kind of lame. Like, that's the other thing I talk about. This is a matchup of two fan bases I fucking can't stand. I hate all these fucking people involved in this game. Notre Dame, like, they're Catholic, you know, so they're all like, oh, like, we do things the right way. We're a good school. Like, it's hard to get in here, shit like that. And haven't won dick since the 80s. Haven't won dick since the other team started letting black players in. But we don't talk about that. A&M, too. Very weird, very cultish. We talk about them. I don't like them either. They're strange, too. But for this one, I will take the home team. I will lay A&M 2.5. I do believe in Connor Wegman, their quarterback. I will put my name on that. I think he's good. I think he'll have a nice night. All right. That brings us to Sunday night. Now, Sunday night, what we got? We got one game Sunday night. We got LSU USC. Neutral site game. Playing it in Vegas, Allegiant Stadium, where the Raiders play. Neutral site. Not so much a neutral site. It's obviously a little bit closer to USC. LSU has a much bigger fan base, and they're like the opposite of Texas A&M. They're awesome. All they care about is like, we're gonna win the game and we're gonna win the party. Those are the two things we're gonna do. They travel, they get fucked up. They're gonna be LSU be in that building for sure. If you aren't a fan of college football, I don't know why you'd be listening to this, but somehow you're not, and you want to get like, basically this game is going to be football cocaine, is what this game is going to be. This is two of the best offenses in college football, with two of the best offensive coaches in college football and two of the absolute worst defenses I've ever seen in my life in Major D1 college football. Last year, both of these teams, their games, both of them, averaged in the 70s total-wise. Both of them. And they're now playing each other. So, both fired their defensive coordinators after last year. Obviously, they were dog shit. LSU brings back pretty much the same players. USC basically tried to revamp the entire thing. So new coach, new players, that whole thing. Now, do I believe in LSU's defense now because they got a new coach? No. They do have some talent on defense, but it's not. It's especially the secondary. The secondary is where they got big time problems. And Lincoln Riley, the head coach at USC, is. I mean, he was the coach at Oklahoma when they had Baker Mayfield, when they had Kyler Murray, when they had Jalen Hurts, like Heisman, first round pick, all that shit, right? This guy knows how to get the yards through the air. LSU on the other side as well, they have a ton of talent on offense. So this is going this line is 63.5, which again is not a great line to bet over on. 63 is 9 touchdowns. So you obviously would like that to be 61 or 62. It's at 63.5. I would bet this up to 70.5. I would take, if it was 70 and line too little, if it was 70.5, I would take the over on that. In fact, and we're not gonna do it. It's not gonna count for the record, but I will at times give you guys a little bit of tips if you wanna see. I know a lot of you guys out there, you sickos, you like the plus sign, so I give you a little something here. I would take the alt total all the way up to 70.5. I don't know what you can get a plus number on that for sure. You'd get plus 270, plus 300, something like that. No problem. I think this game is going to be 55-52 is like the final score that I'm seeing in this game. This game, it's in a dome. Two good quarterbacks. I think you could see the quarterback for LSU, Garrett Nussmeier. Remember, we heard this first. He might be the first overall pick in the draft. Very possible. I don't love USC's quarterback as much. His name is Miller Moss. He's more of he's in that, like, I don't know, Jag plus type area. But they're going to scheme it up. And again, they've got nothing in the defensive secondary at LSU. So there's going to be touchdowns in this game. There's going to be a lot of them. This game is going to be fun. It is going to be fast. It's going to be one where I need you guys, again, we talked about it in the FSU Georgia Tech game. If they punt, if we get 2 back-to-back punts and that live total drops down to 53, 54, something like that, we don't panic. Nobody panics. I promise you the touchdowns are coming in this game. They're going to come in multiple ways. They're going to be able to run the ball. They're going to be able to throw the ball. So we are over 63.5. We are over all day. That is very close to my lock of the week, but it is not my lock of the week. Although I would bet it all the way up to 70.5. Like I said, bet 70.5. I would take over 70.5. 70, obviously 10 touchdowns. I would take over 70.5. And I will take over 70.5. Just for the record. It's not going to count for the record. I don't want any people out there being like, oh, you give it up. The pick is 63.5. I would just, you guys want to make some money, 70.5. Now, that brings us to the lock of the week. When's the lock of the week happening? I'd say when lock of the week's happening. Lock of the week's happening Thursday. Yeah. Thursday night. You know what we got Thursday night? We got Colorado, North Dakota State. Yeah. North Dakota State. Now, a lot of you guys out there, and even the sickos, you got no idea who North Dakota State is. So let me tell you who North Dakota State is. North Dakota State is an FCS team, so that's what people commonly refer to as like Division II, right? They are like the Alabama of Division II. Over the last 10 years, they've won the national championship 4 or 5 times. They're good every year. They put dudes in the NFL. Trey Lance, you know who Trey Lance is. Trey Lance drafted 3rd overall by the Niners a couple years ago. He's on Dallas now, just threw 5 picks in a preseason game. He went to North Dakota State, straight to the NFL from there. A couple other guys made the NFL straight out of North Dakota State. So they get more respect than any other FCS team does, kind of just off the name, kind of just off the brand, without even people really knowing who they are. They just know North Dakota State is a good team. Colorado, the most talked about, media-driven team in college football. Tyler, what do you know about Colorado right now? Do you know anything? He is their head coach. Deion Sanders is their head coach. Yeah, exactly. That's the only reason anybody knows. Right. So Deion Sanders is the head coach. His kid, Shadur Sanders, is the quarterback, right? So basically what happened was they were playing at an HBCU, Jackson State. Deion was the head coach there. He gets hired to be the head coach of Colorado. He brings his son with him. And he brings 2 sons with him, but his other son stinks and plays safety, so he doesn't get talked about that much. His name's Shiloh. Sucks. They come with him. They also bring this guy Travis Hunter, who is, you maybe have heard of Travis Hunter. He's the guy, he plays both ways. He plays receiver and corner.
No.
Yeah, so he could go to the NFL as either one. He'll probably go to the NFL as a corner, but he could play receiver in the NFL for sure. He'll be a top 5 pick next year. He's maybe, just in terms of like college football player, he might be the best college football player in the country this year. So he comes too. He shows up, Colorado, basically, and there's video of this online, basically tells like the team when he gets there, the team there, he goes, you all need to transfer because I'm bringing in guys to replace you all. You all need to get out, basically, is what he says. He says, I'm bringing my luggage with me, and it's Louis, is the quote. So he basically tells all these kids, get the fuck out of here. I'm bringing my guys in. Basically what he's done is he took over an entire football program and just made it a showcase for his kid and this other guy, Travis Hunter, who he acts like Travis Hunter is his kid more than Shiloh. It's fucked. Like, when he talks about, like, my boys, he's talking about Travis and Shadur, and Shiloh's just in the back. Like, it's fucked up. It's fucked up, but it's very funny. Anyway. So where does that leave us in the game? So what's happened with Colorado is Colorado has like a few top line players, like a few guys who are going to the NFL, and then a bunch of dudes who are going to sell insurance in 2 years. Like guys who quite honestly don't belong at a Power 4 program. It's just they just needed bodies after Deion told everybody get the hell out 2 years ago, right? They don't recruit high school at all. They took, I think, 13 or 14 kids out of high school last year. They got one good player, Jordan Seaton, who is their left tackle. He was a 5-star. He's going to start for them at left tackle. So they're starting like an 18-year-old kid at left tackle. That's the situation in Colorado. So just extremely thin. That's the top-heavy team. A couple of guys going to the NFL. Everybody else, dog shit. That's the team. Colorado right now is laying 9.5 to North Dakota State. I am going to lock of the week, Colorado minus 9.5. I would take this up to 21.5 if I could. They are going to steamroll North Dakota State. It's going to get ugly. Here's how I know it's going to get ugly. North Dakota State, they're trafficking off their name a little bit still. So because of, like I said, talked about earlier, they're the Alabama of the FCS. People just kind of recognize that North Dakota State, oh, it's not your normal FCS team. Their talent level has dwindled since like the Trey Lance 2020 year to the point where they are now kind of like really talent-wise like a middle-of-the-pack FCS team. So they would be significantly worse than every pretty much Division I team. And Colorado is in a situation where, so I should clarify this for those of you who don't know. Last year, Colorado started out, they won, I think, 3 of their first 4 games. They might have won 4 of their first game, all 4 of their first games. And then we're talked about as like, oh my God, Deion Sanders, what a genius. Look what he's done. Sure, Sanders going to be the number 1 overall pick. Travis Hunter's going to win the Heisman. This shit's crazy. Could they beat Georgia? They ended up finishing 4-8. They lost a whole bunch of games in a row, including blowing like a 28-point lead at halftime to Stanford at one point. Just, they fell apart. They fired the coach. Absolutely fell apart. So the narrative flipped. People were like, wow, Deion Sanders, what a jackass. This guy doesn't know what he's doing. Look at how he just tanked this program basically just to get his kid drafted. What a fucking asshole, right? What does that leave us? Deion Sanders, biggest ego maybe of all time. If Deion Sanders gets a chance to run up the score in a standalone game on Thursday night when the whole country's watching that game, trust me, he is running up that score. He is going to put that, if he could score 100, he's going to score 100. He will not stop. They will not let up. They will not take their starters out. They will kick because they are trying to win the press conference. All Deion wants to do is come back into that press conference after the game, after he wins by 60, and look at every reporter, who, by the way, is banning reporters from press conferences for not like, because he just doesn't like them. He just bans guys. You can't come. It's fucking crazy. He's going to show up that press conference, and he's going to tell all these reporters, hey, suck my dick. I just beat North Dakota State by 60. No, listen, they're frauds. Colorado's fraud. We're not putting them on fraud watch. They're fraud. We know it already. We're going to make money later in the year betting against Colorado. We're going to make money betting on them this week. Minus 9.5 is the lock of the week. Again, I would bet this all the way up to 21.5. They're going to win by so many points. This is going to get ugly. And it's also the last piece of this. I'll wrap this all up. There is a race element to this as well that people are not talking about. North Dakota State. So Deion Sanders came from. He was the head coach at an HBCU. So it's an all-black college, right? He got Travis Hunter to go there. He's the first time a 5-star ever went to an HBCU. So he was really on like his like I'm black thing, right? North Dakota State, obviously it's in North Dakota. State University of North Dakota. These are all like future farmers and shit. These are corn-fed farm-raised white boys is what they got over there. There is going to be hard R's dropped during this game, no question about that for sure. And so that's going to motivate Colorado to it is going to turn into a let's clown the white boys type situation that does come up sometimes. That's 100% going to happen in this game as well. Colorado has every incentive to make this game a blowout. They're the more talented team. They need the publicity. They need to win by 1 million. I'm laying 9.5 without hesitation. Would lay it up to 21.5. That is the lock of the week. That is all the picks we're going to do this week. Now, there is one thing I did just want to call out just because I saw this before we started. I have to talk about it because it's so crazy. Ohio State is playing Akron this week. Okay, Ohio State's at home. Tyler, just guess. What do you think? What do you think Ohio State's favorite? Ohio State is one of the most talented. They're the second favorite to win the national championship. Akron is maybe one of the worst teams in college football. What do you think the spread is in that game?
48.
More.
55.
51.5 is the last eyes. You don't need 7 touchdowns. You need more if you lay that. It's the biggest spread I've ever seen in a game. I've never seen. Normally, they just don't put that on the book. I've never seen a 50.5 game. I am taking that game as the books outright challenging me to take Akron. Outright looking me in the face, go, here's 50. You won't do it. You think I won't do it? You think I won't take 50? I start the game up 50-0 if I take Akron. Why? How can I not do that? How can I not do that?
Is there a category for this specific kind of bet rate?
Personal challenge bet. Personal challenge bet. Personal challenge bet. Yeah.
But it's not even really personal challenge, but it's almost like a baggage challenge.
Well, it is. They're disrespecting me with this line. They're saying you don't have the stones to do.
Almost a disrespect.
It is. And listen.
It's almost as a different category than personal challenge bet. Personal challenge bet's a little bit.
Personal challenge. Yeah, you're right. Personal challenge bet is something where I've got to do. I'm challenging myself.
Exactly.
This is more of like, yeah. This is like I'm defending the honor of the Diceshaker here with this bet. Like you can't give me 50 points and tell me I won't do it. That's crazy. And listen, I already know this game. Somebody might die on the opening kickoff in this game. Like the level of talent between these two teams is so different. It's nothing but NFL players and dudes who, like, they're like I don't even know. They're probably like good at. They got good grades. I don't know what they're doing at Akron. Playing football. I would have no idea who signs up for that shit, to be honest with you. It's like, hey, come here for 4 years and get brain damage. It'll be fun. Like, I have no idea who's doing that. It doesn't matter. I have to take Akron plus the points. I have to do it. So that's on the card too. It's not obviously not a lock. It's not one of the big games, but I had to call that out because I saw it on the way in. I was like, they can't get away with this. I can't let these people get away with giving me 50 points in a football game. So anyway, so that's what I'm doing. I'm doing Akron plus the 50.5. We'll call. I don't know what we'll call. We'll call it. Because I do feel like it's an honor. Like I'm defending the honor here. It's not a legacy bet, but it's like we're drawing a line in the sand. That's what it is. It's a line in the sand bet where it's like, no, you can't give me that many points. All right, you can't get that fucking crazy with it. All right, we're not gonna live in that world where books can just give out 50 points and shit. All right, take it off the goddamn book. Don't give me 50.5. You give me 50.5. I'm betting it. All right, I might get. They might lose by 100. It's so possible they. Well, it's so yeah, the other way. So Ohio State's in a situation where they've lost to Michigan. So basically, they're like 40-3 the last 3 years, but all 3 of those losses are to Michigan, which is like it doesn't matter. Now your 40 doesn't matter, right? That's how Ohio State Michigan's maybe the biggest rivalry in college football. So if you're an Ohio State fan, it's like, I don't give a fuck about your 40 wins. We've lost 3 straight times to Michigan. Unacceptable. Bad. If they lose to Michigan again this year, Ryan Day's getting for their head coach. He's getting fired. It doesn't matter what else he does. You get him fired. So he's coaching for his life. He knows that. And he also knows this game doesn't matter at all. Like, truly at all. It doesn't matter. They could win by 300 points, and nobody's going to believe in them until they beat Michigan. So there's no incentive for Ohio State to run this up. They will pull starters. They're going to treat it like a preseason game, I would imagine. They're going to pull starters very quickly. And again, they don't have an incentive. Like if I can get 1 touchdown out of Akron, then all we have to do is not give up 60. That should be possible. That should be. The clock runs the clock runs after first down. Like it's only a 60-minute game.
Is there a world we go like maybe 1 first down, 25% then 70-point win on the other side.
Oh yeah.
That's very possible.
It like I said, is it possible? Yeah, it's possible, but I can't. I'm just gonna have to live with that if that's how it goes. Like if it goes that way, where it's like I just lose by and Akron can't even score against like the Ohio State third string guys, then all right, man, then I have to give it up. But you're gonna. It's like when you're golfing, and it's like the putt to win the match. And it's like, yeah, look, is it 5 feet? Yeah, it's 5 feet. But like, you're gonna have to make it. All right. Like that's what I'm telling the book. The book, you're going to have to cover this 50 and a half. I'm not gonna sit on the sidelines and just be like, oh, okay, put your 50 up there. No, you're gonna do that. I'm gonna make you be a man about it. You're gonna have to cover that 50. All right. I'm taking Akron plus the 50. But yeah, no, the real way that loses, the real true way that loses is Akron is just shitting their pants from like the moment they show up to the stadium, and they're just so intimidated and so scared that they start like if Akron starts like hurting themselves in terms of like they just start throwing crazy picks or like so like that's how I can lose that bet. But I'm hoping that they will have a little bit of pride. They will put together a drive at some point and get me 7, and then Ohio State calls off the dogs at like halftime, and it ends up at like Like I can lose this game 45-7 and cover easy.
That's what I was just thinking that number too.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like where it's a clear beatdown. It's like best. Anyway, I can't let the book do it to me. 50 and a half. We're drawing a line in the sand. Line in the sand bet. 50 and a half. Akron plus 50 and a half. New line in the sand bet. Line in the sand bet. So that's it. So that's the card. Recap for you. Lock of the week. Colorado minus 9.5. Would bet it up to 21. We are taking the under 49.5. If you take 48.5, you're banned for life. Georgia Clemson. Miami minus 2.5. Again, you take Miami minus 3, banned for life. A&M minus 2.5, and then over LSU USC over 63.5. I would take that all the way up to 70.5. That is your week 1 preview. We will be back next week when we have the 2 best words in gambling next week. We're not going to say it now. It's too early. We can't say it. But next week we're going to talk about the 2 best words in gambling because we got one next week. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.
My life, I'm a Diceshaker. Electric lights on a skyscraper. It's up and downs for a real.